You need.
Welcome, fellow horror hounds, and welcome to the latest episode of Talk and Stalk, your unholy home for horror. I'm your host, as always, Barry, and I'm joined today by a semi-familiar face here, Tom.
Oh.
Hey, man, you all right?
Yeah, you? Good to be
back.
back.
Not too bad, man. Obviously, we've had some technical problems along the way here. Technology trying to make a stand against us both, I think. I think the fates have just got it in for us, basically. Obviously it's been a while since we did an episode here, and obviously we covered Inside Number 9 the first season, didn't we? We were talking about the first.
We did, and that like nearly a year ago. So season 3 now is going to be like within the next year.
Yeah, well, it's coming up. Obviously, Inside Number 9 is a show that we both love. I'm a huge freaking fan of this show. I can't get enough of Shearsmith and Pemberton in general. Obviously, it just started its 7th series. We're 1 episode in. Really liked it. Can't wait. Really hoping that the BBC recommissions this for an 8th and 9th season, because I do know that the plan, they did say a little while back, 9 seasons was kind of the plan that they were going for, which would be perfectly appropriate. Inside Number 9, 9 seasons. For me personally, I don't think there's been a dip in quality. I've loved every season. Admittedly, as always, some episodes might be stronger than others, etc. But I don't think these guys have ever made a bad episode. I really do feel that. And this is just a show that's so well revered, isn't it? This show gets so much acclaim, but at the same time, not enough people know about it. This show doesn't get as much exposure as what I feel it deserves.
Yeah, because it's weird to see that the League of Gentlemen have got so much popularity, but then this is, in my opinion, their most creative show, and this doesn't get enough recognition. It's like even Psychoville, that's criminally underrated.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm a huge fan of anthologies in general. I love anthologies. I love the League of Gentlemen. So as soon as it was announced that these 2 guys, 2 of the writers from that show, were going to make an anthology, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I died and gone to heaven. And it was not a disappointment. It was not a disappointment at all. A great first season. So yeah, we're just going to be talking about the first 2 seasons, and we're going to be kind of ranking them. So 6 episodes per series, and we'll rank them in order of personal preference. So we'll start with season 1. Now, we did talk about these before, but we never ranked them. We never actually did a ranking system. So for me, with season 1, I feel like we've probably both got this in the bottom spot, but it's still a good episode and I really like it. I've come to appreciate it more with repeated viewings, and that is Last Gasp.
No, you're wrong. That is not my last one.
Okay, I know what your last one is then.
No, you know what my last one is.
Yeah, Last Gasp. So where is it in your placement?
So Last Gasp... This is going to surprise you. It's probably my 3rd. It's my 3rd.
Ooh, okay, I was not expecting as high as that, but no, it's refreshing to see, because Last Gasp is an episode that really doesn't get talked about a huge amount. I really like it. I really like the themes that it deals with. We're going to go into spoilers actually here as well. Okay, so anyone watching this, I'd implore you to watch at least the first 2 seasons of the show before watching this. So Last Gasp, I like the fact that it's a sense of normalcy. It's a normal suburban household, but it deals with some really dark themes. It certainly makes a lot of commentary about celebrity culture. It makes a lot of commentary about greed, and it just goes to show you how a seemingly normal family, the depths they'll go to for money, for greed.
Yeah. And you'll get that in the real world, and you won't expect that. And that's what I love this episode. Kind of like, oh shit.
It's all right, we'll beat that out.
Right. Fuck. You've got to keep these bloopers now. Right. So I love how they've dug into how greedy, like, just ordinary people can be. Like, especially, as you said, especially when it comes to money. And then they have the balloon with his last breath just before he dies, but the daughter's hold of the balloon, and then they're kind of trying to manipulate the daughter, and it's not just the mum and dad, it's his bodyguard, isn't it?
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Go on.
Tamsin Greig is in this, who's great as always. Of course, Friday Night Dinner, Green Wing. She plays a real kind of a bitch character, actually, quite a bitchy character in this. But what I really like about this episode is, yeah, like you say, I think the whole inception of it came from like when Pemberton was looking at all of these celebrity things. You know, when a celebrity dies, whatever they've got possessions, you know, they skyrocket in price.
Yeah.
And it's crazy what people will pay for things that have been owned by celebrities.
And we know that as well as both of us as collectors. Like, we know, like, when a celebrity passes away, like, they'll skyrocket. It's like, as I said, like, there'll be people that have passed away recently. Instantly, like, their autographs, they just go skyrocket, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And this episode certainly makes a lot of commentary kind of towards that. As like you say, you've got this normal family who now they've got a hint at some good money, and the money does revolve around the death of a singer who I believe Shearsmith and Pemberton had actually looked at some big name singers for this role. Even Sting was considered. Sting was actually considered. There was a few big name stars. Even George Michael. They actually looked at George Michael. Now, not to say that George Michael would have ever appeared on the show or whatever. Probably too big name. I don't know.
Imagine, though?
We got somebody that was a singer. Now, the actor's name is escaping me, but he is actually a singer. So the songs were created for this episode, and that I believe. But again, this episode doesn't really have that kind of big traditional twist that you get at the end that, like, Inside Number 9 is renowned for. But there are some twists and turns, and there is a twist, kind of like 2/3 of the way through. He's not dead.
Yeah,
he's not dead, and yet they've already got that hint of the money. They're still already looking at the money. Let's kill him.
Yeah.
He's actually alive. He's actually alive. And they still decide, you know what? We can get this money still. We just have to kill him. And they kind of like have to decide who's going to do it, don't they?
And it's like, as you said, like, it's how far people will go to agree, like, this human being, he's not dead, but they're like, fuck it, let's think of the money.
And I like the ending. I like the ending because it's basically, they're just saying waving goodbye to the money. The person that really wins is the girl. The girl, it's her party. She had no interest in the singer. It was the mum. It was the mum that really wanted this singer around, which again comes from selfishness.
Yeah, not again, like, that's what we're all about. It shows how greedy people can really be.
So yeah, Last Gasp, I like the whole idea of it. I like the whole idea of an episode. I think it's a perfect example to just show how, like I said, how the depths that people will go to for money and testing people's moral fiber. Good episode. Probably my least favorite of season 1, but as I say, that's just a testament to how great this show is. Yeah. So what's in the bottom spot for you then?
So my 6th is Sardines, which is the opening episode.
What?
I know.
Okay, I did not see that coming. That's a bigger twist as any of Shearsmith and Pemberton have done.
The real twist. So yeah, like, the reason this, as I said, it was again their strong opening, but it's not really, I wouldn't consider it a favorite episode of mine. Okay. But again, like, I like how they basically take this child's game and, like, kind of basically play it as adults when they're trying to play hide and seek, and then they're all fitting into the locker. And then they've each kind of got a dark secret that's, like, coming out. And then, as you said, you've got Shearsmith and Pemberton who play a
gay couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great.
Like, again, that relationship's dysfunctional.
There's so much, because Sardines is my number 3 of season 1.
Oh, so that is a twist.
Sardines. I think Sardines is a really good episode and a perfect episode to start this show with. I think it's so incredibly well crafted to have so many characters on screen. No one's jostling for screen time. And it is an episode that, again, it's funny, but you can just feel there's something dark brewing underneath the surface. And not to go into it, but there's a lot of themes running throughout this episode that when you watch it at its core, it's really dark, actually, because when you watch it a second time, you'll definitely notice and pick up on things that you probably didn't see first time round. Big twist. Certainly sure as hell didn't see it coming. Big twist. that again kind of almost comes out of nowhere, but it's like I said, when you watch it a second time, it all adds up. I love all of the little nuances between the characters. You've got these little subplots going on. You've got this love triangle, and it deals with incest. And obviously, you know, we understand all of the characters in this, like Stinky John. There's a reason why he's stinky. There's a reason he stopped washing. There's a reason that they haven't been into that room for such a long time. On paper, like to have so many characters on screen and essentially most of it be set in a wardrobe, and to make that work as well, I think it's so incredibly well written. It's my third favorite episode of season 1. I don't think they could have picked a better episode to start the show off with, to give people an idea of what this show is kind of about.
As I said, it's a good opener, but for me personally, it was just kind of like my least favorite. But also, as I said, what is a coincidence now? So your number 6 is my number 3rd, and then my number 6 is your number 3rd. Now that is the true twist.
Yeah. I love Sardines. Great cast. Because great cast as well, and probably the biggest cast of all. Of any episode of Inside Number 9, I do believe it has the biggest cast. And when I say cast, I'm talking speaking roles, actual characters. There are 12 characters in that 1 half-an-hour episode. But yeah, the twist of Ian not being Ian and being this boy that was abused. Yeah. And I just love the ending. I just love the ending where he stood outside and they're all in that cupboard, and just that it really turns dark quite quickly. Sardines, that's my 3rd favorite. So position 5 for me would be The Harrowing.
Same.
Okay. I do like it. I do really like it. I love it's very much an ode to Gothic horror, which is what I really appreciate. Shearsmith and Pemberton clearly have an astute love for horror. You know, you can see that in the likes of League of Gentlemen and Psychoville and that. I just love the aesthetics of this episode.
It definitely reminds you. It definitely reminds you of something like from Hammer Horror or anything from Vincent Price. Like, it definitely gives a homage to like 50s horror, and you can definitely tell within this episode. It's
definitely paying homage to that, certainly. And it's notable because last Gasp, which was episode 4, was the first episode to not have Shearsmith in. It was Pemberton only. And in this episode, it's Shearsmith only. There's only 2 episodes in the entire show where one of them appears and the other one doesn't. They experimented with that. They wanted to, but then they decided, you know what, we're going to be in every episode together and that. I really like this episode. Again, there's humor, but this is a lot darker. This episode is a lot darker. There's not a huge, massive twist per se at the end. There are some little twists and turns about, like the girl being involved in it. I like the fact that they go upstairs and that. It's a great sense of atmosphere to in it. But it's certainly probably the comedy maybe not work. It's not as comedy laden in this episode.
Like there's still little bits of elements in it, but what I do love about this episode is, like as you said, Pemberton and Shearsmith absolutely show their love for horror, and again, like that's why this episode is strong. Yeah,
it was the first time in the show. It was the first time in the show when it actually had like a really dark ending that probably freaked some people out. Actually,
yeah.
So no, I really like it for the kind of like the horror, the Gothic horror aesthetics and that. I mean, there are some bits that kind of make me chuckle in that. It almost felt like to me there was an implied incestuous relationship between Shearsmith and his sister.
Yeah.
But they don't bash you across the head with that. Like, oh, what is it again? He got this stair lift, but he always told me he'd take me to Rome. You know, he's impulsive in all the wrong ways. It almost makes it sound. Did you put that like that?
Yeah, like I kind of had a feeling there was something more between them two. Like it just kind of, as you said, gave that really incestuary vibe.
Yeah, I like the fact broadband. You know, that broadband joke.
Yeah,
possibly certifiable and that. And again, getting back to Sardines, I thought there was some great humour in there, man, particularly between a couple of Shearsmith and Pemberton. Some really good stuff in there. Oh, I've not seen this much wood since. Oh, you know what I say? When there's grass on the wicket, let play commence. But yeah, and again, in that episode, he obviously has a problem with what's the word? What's the word? Commitment, sexual. But obviously, you come to learn why.
Yeah,
the twist ending is revealed, and that you fully understand as to why he has an issue. He has a problem with this relationship and so forth. But yeah, so for me, the harrowing at number 5. So that's your number 5. So what's your
my number 5? So we might as well just jump straight into number 4.
What's your number 4?
So my number 4, no, I've just watched this episode as well again, and that is the Understudy.
Okay.
So again, I like this because it shows as I said, Pemberton, he plays this sort of stage actor who's basically been sober for something like 4 years, and they've got to play a Macbeth going on. And then you've got an understudy, which is played by Shearsmith. And Shearsmith kind of wants that role, and his girlfriend is trying to push him towards that role. And then, as you see later on in the episode, Pemberton starts falling off the bandwagon, like someone spiked his sort of juice with alcohol, like basically like a full bottle of vodka. And then you can sort of see him going down there. And then Shearsmith's not kind of taking that commitment. But then he's also starting to have these flashback, like these forward flashes, to sort of what's going to be happening and stuff. And he even can't explain that. So it was like, it's a pretty dark episode for what it was, because then again, you've got the big twist at the ending when it was, so he becomes from the understudy to basically full-blown stage actor, and then you find out.
But at what price?
Basically, the assistant kind of made Pemberton fall off the bandwagon, and that led to him being more or less disabled for life. Yeah,
well, it has kind of a with this episode. This is in 4th place for me, by the way. The Understudy. I really like the Understudy. I think it's a pretty solid episode. The again doesn't really get talked about a huge amount, I don't feel. I love the setting for it, and this one is kind of no stranger to Shearsmith and Pemberton because they come from theatre, and they've actually got a love of theatre. And I love the whole setting for this in the changing room of the theatre. So you don't actually get to see the stage, but it's telling you a whole story because you actually hear what's going on the stage through the tannoy. It's very well done. And yeah, its twist ending is very kind of Fatal Attraction-esque.
Yeah.
So you're led to believe, because Shearsmith is an understudy, he'd love to be the big star. But you're led to believe that his girlfriend, you'd love to believe his fiance is the one that's kind of engineered this for him, but it isn't. And obviously, you never actually fully know why she killed herself, but we find out that she dies, because there is definitely some surrealistic horror in this episode as well with the visions. It has kind of a horror aesthetic to it. Now, I'm not well versed on Shakespeare, but from what I understand, this episode closely parallels the story of Macbeth. And I like the structure of it, that it's actually in 5 acts. I like how they've structured it as well. Some really good comedy in this as well, especially from Pemberton. I think this is an episode where Pemberton really does shine in this.
Yeah, definitely.
Arseholes. That's how we got the job in the first place.
Not me, there's a ghost.
Yeah, I could turn you, Yes, Julia Stevenson. Actually, I don't know if I haven't got the name right. I do know the actress's name, and I can't think of her.
I know her. She was in like Noel Fielding's comedy show, and she was also in the Night.
Yeah, she was in 99. So she's the woman that's the not the wardrobe girl, but she's the one that wears the black top. She's obviously
and the woman, like, again, who sabotaged the show. Like, the funny thing is, the only thing I know her from is Friday Night Dinner. Like, she appeared in an episode of that, and she also appeared in an episode of Peep Show as well.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about the dresser girl, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a familiar, Again, I recognise her in so many things, not sure of her name.
Do not know her name.
But no, I think the Understudy, yeah, I think it's a good episode. It might not necessarily have one of the kind of biggest shock twists or anything like that.
But it's still got its shock factor in there. Like, it still squeezed that in.
But it's Shearsmith and Pemberton are sublime in kind of creating, leading you along a false path, they sublimely play on people's expectations. And they really do that with this episode as well, I feel. So like I said, you're basically led to believe that, yeah, the fiance is the one behind this, but she isn't. And again, it's, I like Shearsmith's character because he's just kind of portrayed, he's kind of pathetic almost, isn't he?
He's
very kind of sympathetic and pathetic, and then he gets
his character's more the type of, he'll talk the talk, but he won't walk the walk. And he didn't want to push himself to that commitment, but then he kind of got it thrown on him. Yeah. It's a good episode. So number 3 for me is obviously Sardines. Yeah. Which is probably my second most watched, actually. Sardines, of all the episodes in season 1, I've probably seen that one second most watched. So what's your number 3? My number 3 is said Last Gasp.
Last Gasp. So number 2?
So my number 2 is A Quiet Night In.
Okay, that's my number 1.
And then, well, you can guess my number 1 there. So the reason I've got this in now, this was just played out amazingly. Like, there was no speaking in this episode whatsoever, so you had no idea what was going on. But again, the comedic stuff was just hit so perfectly. It's like with the texting when he throws that dog at the window. Yeah, like, it's just, it works. But then again, everything starts to unfold, because then you've got the husband and wife are home. He kills her, and then I've got that right, haven't I? Yeah. Well, it's basically it's been a while since I've seen it. It's harking back to the days of Laurel and Hardy and Buster Keaton, and you just don't see stuff like that anymore. Two episodes in, and Shearsmith and Pemberton were being so incredibly experimental. They're guys that think outside the box, and they certainly did that with this episode. It's like, how do you tell a half-an-hour story with no words? And it's so incredibly well done. It's absolute genius. It stands out. You don't see stuff like this anymore. Yeah, it's brilliant. And again, it's got some great twists in there as well. I love the ending. Yeah. I really love the ending. I love the scene with the dogs, because Pemberton's actually allergic to dogs in real life. I don't know if you know. That scene was really hard for him to do. Yeah. They had to use a stunt actor at one point when he's moving the dogs, because he can't actually be around dogs. Right. I love the little twist. The wife isn't even a wife. Yeah. Played by Una Chaplin, who's actually a descendant of Charlie Chaplin. Bloody hell. Yeah. She was also in Game of Thrones. But yeah, it was a challenge to film as well, because from what I read as well, because it's this modernist house, they had to try and find the perfect house with which to film this, and they did it. But the cameramen and stuff, because obviously you've got all the window in the background, they had to wear black to try and black themselves out so they weren't seen. I think it's an absolute great episode. It's in my top 5 episodes of the show. Full stop. Yeah, definitely. I've got to agree with you on that, because again, the comedy works perfectly. Yeah. Yeah, they show the love for like slapstick comedy, as you said, like Laurel and Hardy and that, and you don't get shows like that anymore. Yeah. So you're introducing that to newer audiences. And you can tell an entire story, like the bit where he's trying to, he goes to the toilet and he's like timing, like, for a wee or poo, and he's like telling him how long, and they're the text him, he's telling him to tell, how to turn the phone off and that, and his phone won't leave him alone, keeps texting on his phone. The bit with the peppers, it's just great. It's so incredibly well written and performed. To me, it's an absolute masterpiece. Your number 1 is my number 2. Yeah. So this is only just behind Quiet Night In, and that, of course, is Tom and Jerry. This episode is phenomenal. Like, the reason this is my number 1 is because it shows how fast people can go on a downward spiral, and also it can show what, like, basically the consequences of trusting the wrong person. So
it's and ironically, this is the first one they ever wrote.
Really?
They wrote the basis for this when they were unemployed, even before the League of Gentlemen started off as a TV show.
Christ.
They both basically wrote the basic plot outline. Obviously, there were tweaks to it, but the basic plot line was written many, many years before. This is a great episode with what is probably still one of the best twists.
Definitely.
A great twist. I like the fact that it's a very claustrophobic aspect, that you're like in this flat. Pemberton, again, I think Pemberton really shines in this.
Yeah.
Both of these guys are great. They're both great. But Pemberton as Mig, the homeless guy, when he shows up at the doorstep and he's pitiful, he's sympathetic, and then we quickly come to learn that this guy is not quite as harmless as he may appear to be.
Yeah. And then it shows Shearsmith kind of going on that downward spiral.
It's a power shift. It's like the roles almost become reversed. And what's great about, again, there's some great humor in there, but again, like Sardines, there's just something dark. There's just something brimming under the surface. And the fact of the twist, like reveal in that as well, you're led to believe that Mig isn't real and that is a fabrication of Shearsmith's mind. And that's what you're kind of led to believe. And that's what I was thinking when I was first watching it.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like that big twist. But then it's kind of like the twist upon the twist. You find out that Mig is real, and it's actually Jerry that's not there.
Yeah.
His girlfriend.
Because his wife like passed away, didn't she?
In a car accident.
Yeah.
But there's that scene where she says to him, she goes, Mig's not real. Because when you think about it, you don't see Mig interact with any other characters in that episode. You don't.
Yeah.
Even when the character's name's actually Tom, sorry. When Tom points out the window to Jerry and she's like, look at the homeless guy, she can't even see him. Nobody else sees Mig through this episode. And that's where you kind of think, hang on a sec, is Mig actually real? But Jerry's the one that's not there. It's a great twist.
And then again, I feel like that's why that's when I want the shock factor of it, because then you find out Jerry's died. And then as soon as they walk into the bathroom and then you find Mig in the tub and they're like, oh, he's not real.
Yeah. And Mig comes out and he actually says to him, like, Tom, is everything okay? And he's obviously saying that because he clearly must have been watching Tom sitting there talking to someone that isn't there.
Yeah.
And he was manipulating Tom. He was a guy that was manipulating Tom. He was essentially taking over his life. It's a great episode. It's a really good episode where all the components really work. So it's second place for me, just behind Quite Night In.
Yeah, so, as I said, this is my number one. Again, it were more for the shock factor of it, why I put it as my number one, because it would just, again, the minute you see him in that bathtub, it's just a holy shit moment. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's probably in my top 10 episodes of the show as a whole, covering all seasons. So season 2, now this is one we haven't really talked about before.
And this has caused so much delays.
Okay, so bottom place for me was season 2. And again, it's a good episode because this is another suburban set episode that I like some of the themes it deals with. And that is Nana's Party.
That, for me, is number 5. But again, it is a fantastic episode.
It's, again, taking, like last Gasp, it's putting us in a normal suburban life household, but there's a lot of things underneath the surface here. Adultery, abortion, even. Pornography.
Yeah, countdown.
What's the countdown? The countdown tapes aren't countdown tapes, are they?
Again, it is the subject on alcoholics, because as I said, the auntie was like a recovering alcoholic, and then
her actress name, she does a great job actually. She's one of the standout characters in this episode. Her name is actually escaping me, but she's great. Now, obviously, she's having an affair with her brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And again, there's just moments. It's like, it doesn't end with like a huge twist per se, but there are twists. The countdown video thing can be construed as a twist. The big twist, if you will, is because it opens with a paramedic arriving.
Yeah.
He naturally assumes something bad's gone on. And he's a stripper.
Yeah.
For a party. It's great.
And she's like joking, and then you've got Shea Smith who's like electrocuted on the floor. Now, this is another thing with Shea Smith, what I like. Now, you might agree with me on this. His character is your typical Uncle Knobhead.
What, in this particular episode?
Yeah, and that's because of the jokes that were coming out. It was the typical like
he's just like a practical joker, isn't he? He's just like a really kind of sad kind of guy. But I feel sorry for him actually, because he's got a really sad face. When his wife Carol flings that drink over him, you really feel sorry for him.
Yeah, like I feel like at first, like you first watch this episode and you just think, Christ, this guy's just getting on your tits. And then, as you said, as soon as you're starting to see the marriage, like you can see how downward it's gone. You feel so bad for him. And also another subject, this is OCD, like the mum at the beginning, you can tell she's got major, like with the thingies in the carpet, because when they're all tattered, she's like, just straighten them out, and then hoovering the stairs, and then like when the girl's doing homework, she's like, what's all this mess? And she's only got like a book and a pencil case there. Yeah.
It's like Last Gasp in the sense of it takes a normal setting, it takes what should be a happy time, a party, and it completely turns it on its head. This does not have a happy ending.
And another twist with the cake. So you're thinking the mum's under the table, and then they're going on about this affair and stuff, and then the daughter's found out, and then Pemberton's talking to the cake, saying, don't listen to her, it's not true. And then Nana comes along with the knife.
The whole sequence, the whole scene, that whole setup is really well done. Because obviously, hiding under the coat, because he's trying to get him back for a practical joke, isn't he? He's trying to pull a practical joke in that. And obviously he's under there for the first time. And again, there's a really tense moment where she lights the candles, and of course he's under the frigging cake. Yeah. And it's that whole kind of like suspense. I mean, that's kind of Hitchcockian, man. That's kind of Hitchcock stuff. There really is some suspense there. It's a good episode. It's a really good episode.
And then you've got Nana with the card, which is forget about the past, you can't change it. Forget about the future, you can't predict it. Forget about the present. Oh wait, I didn't get you. It kind of sort of fits into that episode, because again, you can't change the past. Did have the affair, can't change the future. Like at the ending, she and the daughter leaves Pemberton, and
I want you to put my what is it? I want you to put my buns. I want you to put my buns in your oven. Or something. It's a good episode. It's like I said, like with the kind of like the twist thing, you're just expecting something like big, and something truly horrible has happened in that, and then the stripper thing is just like hilarious. The whole scene, that Pemberton's face when he sees that stripper doing that dance is just brilliant. And that was actually the first one of two scripts, by the way, that was actually put forward to the BBC before Inside Number 9 even happened.
Yeah.
They actually wrote that as originally, that was envisioned to be part of a ongoing series, so not an anthology. And then they worked it as a 30-minute episode. So fifth, what's your fifth spot? Oh, sorry, that is Nana's party.
So, right, my sixth spot, again, it's a fantastic episode, but again, there were so many better episodes in the season. And then this is something I would love to see more. And my number 6 is The Trial of Elizabeth Gage.
Oh, Gage.
Gage. So, for starters, you've got David Warner in here, who's like a horror icon with The Omen. And so to see him in it's already fantastic. So basically, it's set in the Salem witch trials, and this young couple basically this daughter frames her mother to be a witch, but you can already tell it's just so they can kind of claim the house already, basically just trying to get rid of her. But then they're saying like, oh, they've seen her talking to this mouse or sucking on the devil's teeth kind of thing.
This again, they're kind of like diving into horror here. With this episode, it's very much kind of Witchfinder General / The Blood on Satan's Claw. Based on 2 real life witch hunters back in the 1600s. They use that as the basis of this episode. And like you say, yeah, got a very established actor in David Warner. I mean, David Warner coming out with some of the lines that he comes out with, you just never imagine it. This episode has a lot of comedy to it. That does work. It does work. It does make me laugh. But it knows when to be dark, because there are moments that are dark. And the actor, for example, with the prickling, I mean, this thing really happened. Women, hundreds and hundreds of women were killed for being witches.
And then the daughter's trying to back out of it. But you can tell it was the husband that was basically pushing her to sort of basically get her done as this witch. And I can't think of the guy's name, but I know him from like Horrible Histories and Jared. It was Jared in Peep Show.
The episode has a great twist as well, because the actress Ruth Sheen, I believe it is, that plays Elizabeth Gadge, did a terrific job.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
Terrific job. She's funny. You really feel for her. She's funny, but the big twist is she is a witch.
Yeah,
she was the witch, and I didn't see that coming. What a freaking twist!
Burnt to the stake. It's Shearsmith.
Twist on a twist. Yes, Shearsmith is burnt. You get a little twist there on top of a twist, much like with Tom and Jerry. Like they did with that one, a little twist and then a twist. I thought that was a freaking great twist. And as well, like with Pemberton, you kind of really side with him because you can clearly tell throughout this episode, Shearsmith has lost his way. Shearsmith is looking to crucify anyone. Yeah. He's just hell-bent on everyone's a witch. And he even says to Pemberton, like, be careful, tread carefully, otherwise you could end up. And so it's kind of like when he has his demise, you kind of feel more for Pemberton because Pemberton is the guy that's actually trying to stay grounded. Yeah. It's actually Trial of Elizabeth Gadge is my third or fourth.
Wow.
I'm probably picking maybe fourth. All right, maybe fourth pick. So just one above yours. Yeah. One above yours. Because I love them old, Witchfinder General and that kind of, and I thought they did a really good job.
Like, as I said, I definitely want them to dive into more periodic settings. So as I've said to you, I'd love for them to do like a Western one. Like, I feel like that would be great. Yeah.
I think the Trial with Elizabeth Gadge, it's one of them episodes that does make me laugh the most, actually. Yeah. There is a lot of stuff in there I like. For example, you got, what's his name? His name's escaped me. I can't think of his name. But he plays Goody Two-Shoes. Yeah. Or Richard Goody Two-Shoes, whatever. I like the scene where he stood there and he's like, because he claims to have seen her kissing the devil's ass, blah, blah, and all that and whatever.
And it turned out she was actually a prostitute.
Yeah, was what? And he says, what is it? David Warner says, like, do you admit to sleeping with this vile hag? He's like, yeah, but she's my wife. And then he stood there with they're not even talking about Elizabeth Gadge. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of comedy that worked for me in that episode, and I like the periodic setting as well. Definitely. Again, harking back to some of them old school kind of horror movies and that as well.
Yeah, I love to see him do more of like the periodic stuff for definite.
Yeah. So I think that's number 4 for me. So Trial of Elizabeth Gadge, 4th spot for me, 5th for you.
No, Elizabeth Gadge was 6th for me. My number 5th were, as we said, Nana's Party.
Okay. So that covers, all right. So my number 5, sorry, would be Seance Time.
That's my number 4.
Seance Time, again, diving into horror. I really like it. I think, again, this has got some great comedy. I think there's some comedy in here that really works. And this is kind of them taking on kind of like Most Haunted, I like the idea of the whole set around a seance, a fake seance, if you will. That's kind of like candid camera, you've been framed, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Beadles about, should I say, and basically it becoming a real seance, a real horror. There's a real haunting going on at this seance. I like the whole idea of it. Shearsmith is at his most unlikable in this. He's great at playing unlikable, up his arse kind of characters.
Definitely.
And he's definitely in that. He's definitely that in this, because he's a guy just chasing the ratings. He's trying to make a name for himself again.
He's trying to make a comeback because, as he said, all he were doing were bingo adverts.
Yeah.
And then he said something like, "Oh, it's Dick Whittington that's doing that now."
Yeah, and this again has got a great cast. The actress name is escaping me, but the woman that plays this, the medium, and the guy that plays the blue demon dwarf. He's not actually a dwarf. That's one of the running jokes in the episode, because he's just a short guy. He's not a dwarf. He's just a short guy.
And then he turned around saying, "Oh, is it going to be, when you put is it going to be known as dwarf? Because like on my sheet, on the casting sheet, it says dwarf."
Do you play a lot of Do you play a lot of demon dwarfs? No. Why'd you say that? Yeah, I do like Seance Time. It has kind of a jump scare ending, not like a big twist per se or anything. But again, there are little moments like inside number 9, which Shearsmith and Pemberton always do. They always plant little seeds throughout each episode, kind of hinting as to what the outcome could be, etc. And they definitely do that in this, with the puddle of water on the floor and the bear, the teddy bear on the radio, on the
vinyl
radio
record player.
Yeah.
Record player.
So no, I think Seance Time again, it explores the world of television and what people will do to get ratings.
Yeah, exactly. Like, as I said, it's like with the kid, like the kid wet himself because he did something where he dressed as a gorilla, and then
which you just brush off. You just kind of brush that off as an off-the-cuff statement throughout the episode, but actually plays a part in the ending.
Yeah. And then I do think the scenes with Pemberton were hilarious. So it's like when he's like taking that phone call, when they say, it's like, "Oh, you got back quick," and then she's like, "Oh, she's here now."
Yeah, it doesn't go according to plan. So it works brilliantly first time round on the first woman. And then, of course, he comes in as the next person, and it all goes to, excuse my language, it all goes to shit, because this guy doesn't do anything right. So he answers the telephone call. He's not even sitting down when at the moment they're supposed to tell him to sit. He stubs his nail, doesn't he? He's on a...
Yeah, he finds the nail because the blue dwarf lost his nail, so they had to get a new nail, and then so they had to take his... Oh, he stood in dog shit, that were it, and then he had to take his shoe off, and then he stands in the nail. So
they've got to bleep all this out and that, and it just shows you when television goes wrong. So what is that for you? Because that's my number 5.
That's my number 4. So it's just above that. And again, like with when she reveals the hood and she's got one contact in, what's wrong with her eyes? Oh, she's had a cataract stuff, but
I only got one done. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. And again, she's great. She's great. They said I was too. What was it? There's a joke she mentions about being too foul-mouthed. I can't remember what she says, and then she actually swears after that. I can't actually remember the line off the top of my head. But yeah, it's again. I don't think these guys have ever done a bad episode, man.
Exactly, I agree with you. They've never done a bad episode. There's just some that have kind of
some that are elevated above others.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I like the fact as well that Pemberton, we'll get to one soon anyway, that Pemberton and Shearsmith, even though they're the faces of Inside Number 9, they write them all and that. They don't always, not always, in most occasions, but they don't always put themselves as the main character either.
Yeah.
Not always. So third place for me, I'm guessing we've got the same third place. Now, I'll be honest, right? This was jostling with Trial of Elizabeth Gadge, because I think I like that episode more than some other people, should I say. For me, La Cochillette is at number 3.
No, it's going to surprise you where that is for me.
Okay. So I really like La Cochillette. I love the setting. It's about as claustrophobic as you can get. It certainly veers and plays more towards comedy. But it works. A lot of the humor does work. I love the idea of a sleeper train car setting.
And then it suddenly goes to dark, like not where, like 0 to 60. Like, as soon as that guy falls out of bed, and then you realise he's dead.
Yeah.
But again, as you said, the comedy works so well in it. Like, Shea Smith is trying to like go to sleep. Pemberton plays a drunk German, like basically piss balling about.
It goes into farcical, doesn't it? It really does go into kind of farcical territory. Well, like you say, then it does take a kind of a darker turn, because the first kind of like 10 minutes is basically Shea Smith trying to get to goddamn sleep.
Yeah.
And it's that whole kind of like, can you imagine? And the whole idea for this came from Reece Shearsmith went on holiday with his family. I think it was to France, and they were in one of them sleeper cabins, and he actually got the whole idea. He thought, what about if we do an Inside Number 9 in a train car like this? Like, how claustrophobic can you get? Again, Pemberton really accept. Now, again, this is Reece Shearsmith at his most narcissistic, again, as an absolute arsehole. He's just bothered about getting to his interview on time. He doesn't care that there's a dead body. He doesn't care about anyone else, whatever.
Like, because when the light stopped, and then same with Jack Whitehall, he's turned around, he's like, I've not got a ticket. Like, you can't stop the train.
Roy Benton, and I think his name's Roy Benton or Benson, and Hayley from Coronation Street. Her name's escape. They're great as the couple. They're great. I like how all the characters come in at once and stuff. And it's the first 10 minutes, like I say, is around like him trying to get to sleep, but all of these interrupting noises, the door being opened, friggin' him trying to drunkenly put the ladder up, and then of course it kind of becomes almost, well, it actually gets mentioned, Murder on the Orient Express, there's a dead body in there. But the twist is good.
Yeah, when suddenly, I'm just going to call her Hayley. So Hayley goes off, and then they're wondering where she's gone, and then there's a body on, like, in front of, because the train stopped, and then you can tell the tension builds up so much because you're thinking she's jumped out. Yeah. And then you find out is it a deer or something? It is a deer. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a deer, like, and then she's like, what's all this? What's going on? And what's Smith's first instinct? If she's jumped, if she's killed herself, she's going to cost me my job. Like, that's his first impression. That's like his first reaction. Yeah, she's jumped. She's Pemberton doesn't care about a human being's life. He just wants to get to his interview. And then again, the curveball with that twist when you find out Shea Smith killed that guy. Shea Smith killed that guy because he thought he was his rival. And then another curveball is Pemberton. That's his rival. He killed the wrong guy. Yeah. So presumably this guy was in the wrong bed, or probably just the other guy. Yeah, the other guy, just like, because he was that drunk, he probably didn't even know what bloody bed. Pemberton was great. Pemberton was great as the German guy. Who obviously, there's a lot of kind of flatulence in that episode as well, isn't there? Yeah. Like, again, Shearsmith kind of got the idea of that, kind of like, can you imagine somebody kept farting all the time and you're in a tiny little room with them? No. How much of a nightmare that would be. But that's where the whole idea, the whole inception of it kind of came from. It was notably as well the first episode to be directed by Guillermo Morales, who, I tell you what now, is probably the best director of Inside Number 9. So obviously them guys write it, but that guy has a really great visual style, and he's directed some of the greats. He's directed some of the very best episodes of Inside Number 9. And he's a film director. This is a guy that directed the Julia's Eyes, a Spanish movie. And him being brought over to Inside Number 9 to direct some of these episodes and that, because he was a fan. He was actually a big fan of the show. And that was the first episode to be directed by him. So that's my number 3 of season 2. It's your top, isn't it? Yeah, it's my number 1, because I remember speaking to you about it a few weeks ago. Again, another reason is because of the shock factor in that episode. Like, again, there's another episode with a bigger shock, but I feel like this kind of, again, it worked well with the comedy, and then it worked well with the dark side. So my number 1. Back on subject now. So my number 3 is now this one, fantastic episode. The way it was shot as well kind of just gave a different sort of atmosphere, and that is called Comfort. Yeah, that's my number 2. That's my number 2 season 2. So Pemberton plays basically a new employee will volunteer for this helpline. So a bit like the Samaritans kind of thing. so basically comfort support line, and then people are just telling him his problems. But again, as you said, Shea Smith playing another arsehole character, like, because again he has a problem with another employee, Liz,
played by Jane Horrocks, who does a great job. She's a really funny woman, man.
Oh, she does a fantastic job in this. And like, so Pemberton gets a cold call saying that there's a girl called Chloe, and like, oh, she hates life, she hates her mum, she hates her stepdad, especially a stepdad.
Yeah.
And then saying that she's taken some pills and she wants Pemberton to basically sing to her, and then so they can take that. But he's there just like call an ambulance, and she's like, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah,
I think with this, Pemberton and Shea Smith will be an experimental again, because he actually directed this episode. This was the first episode they directed, and then they actually directed Nana's Party as well afterwards. And the idea to do it on fixed camera, CCTV, and that as well was quite an inspired choice. And I love this episode. I think this episode again has some really good humor to it, but it has a really dark edge.
Yeah.
I think Shea Smith come up with the idea of, years ago, he read an article about these call center things, and like somebody had actually killed themselves while on the telephone while somebody was listening, and that stuck with him, and he kept it, and that's where the whole basis of this episode come from. And even that people, I know they make a joke of it in the episode and stuff, but it really happens. People phone up these call centers to masturbate.
Yeah.
Apparently that really happens. But I love all the manner of calls you get throughout this episode. But it's really dark. So as soon as he starts talking to Chloe, who, of course, again, in quite the twist, turns out to be Reece Shearsmith, who's been doing this for years.
Like you're thinking, and like you kind of leading to think that it could be Liz, and then it could be leading to the other one. I can't think of her name, the other woman.
Yeah, the black woman.
Yeah, I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but then Shea Smith Pemberton turns right and said, I'm going to prove this to you. And then when they get it up on the CCTV, it's not her. And then they just find out it's Shea Smith. And then you can see him on the other CCTV. He's walking up.
Yeah. And then he realizes he's been discovered and runs off. Now, again, this kind of has a twist on a twist. So we find out it's Shea Smith. But then, of course, due to somebody taking their own life.
Yeah.
Somebody really taking their own life. The son is there in the call center, right behind him. Again, it's a classic case of misdirection. You don't pay any attention to the guy stood behind Pemberton. You just think it's a new colleague, a new employee. And he comes in, and presumably Shea Smith, Pemberton's dead. Pemberton's going to get killed at the end of the episode. He
turns around and says, oh yeah, I've told the son. And then you just see him pull out the gun, and again, shock factor.
Yeah. It's got a really dark undercurrent to it. Because obviously Chloe, they kind of cheat somewhat, actually, because they're actually using a female voice as Chloe.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, they use audio experts, a receipt of Reece and her, and then kind of combined it too in later scenes. But Chloe was actually a woman. I can't remember the actress name that they used there. So they had to kind of cheat somewhat, because if they didn't, you'd be able to tell it was Shea Smith.
Yeah.
100%. It would give it away straight away, because you know his voice. But no, it's a really solid episode. There's loads of moments in the episode that do make me laugh from that as well, though. Like when he thinks it's when he's talking to the guy, listen, you fucking bitch, if you don't hang up.
Yeah.
And then the new guy, and he'll go, oh, well, that's not how we do it where I was working.
Yeah, it was just like, you could tell he was shocked. Like, just
yeah. And then he tells, the phone rings and he answers it. And he's like, fuck it. And it's just somebody guy. It's not Chloe, is it? It's just somebody trying to ring up, and this guy's telling him to shut the fuck up. There's got like, humour in there.
I think I'll miss this one.
Yeah.
Then just stand it up.
I think Cold Comfort's a really good episode. And again, it was them being experimental. It was them tinkering about and trying to do something a little different.
And again, it worked out so well.
Okay, so that was your number 3, right?
Yeah, it was my. Yeah,
well,
my.
You know what your number 1 is.
Yeah.
So my number 1 presumably is your number 2.
Yeah, and I remember you saying this was probably your all-time favorite episode of Inside Number 9.
I think this is the best episode. I think this is the best episode that we've done.
This episode is 12 Days of Christine, and it stars Sheridan Smith in there.
Gives an absolutely fantastic performance. She really carries this. This episode is not just, to me, the best episode of Inside Number 9. It's one of the best half an hours of television I've seen, because to bring someone to absolute tears within a half an hour story, a half an hour episode, you're essentially following one woman's life, from marriage, divorce, a child being born. You're following that in a 30-minute format, and I'm getting goosebumps sitting here thinking about it, because it's so incredibly well crafted. And this is the most critically acclaimed episode of the show. If you look on any list, this is like the most acclaimed, and this is the one that I know Shearsmith and Pemberton are most proud of. Just absolute brilliance, just how it's constructed. All of the clues are there in place, everything.
Yeah, because I've noticed this, because when I've rewatched this, I've started to like see all the clues, and then you kind of...
Yeah, like the toy car in it when she's on the telephone, and the toy car is like knocked over. The egg, the breaking of the eggs, the song.
The photos when she's showing the photos, the ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, and of course, again, this is showing you Shearsmith and Pemberton are minimalistic in this episode. So Sheridan Smith is the star of this one. Pemberton and Shearsmith actually play smaller roles. Pemberton's just a friend of hers, a gay friend. Them two guys do gay really well, though, don't they? It's got to be said. Yeah. They're very good at playing effeminate characters. And Shearsmith obviously plays the guy who inadvertently caused the accident, if you will.
But it's kind of misleading where you think he's the ex-boyfriend, because in the photo he looks like Shearsmith.
Yeah, that was apparently on accident as well. They didn't intend for that. Yeah, apparently that was a pure accident. So it's emotional. It packs an emotional wallet, man. Talk about emotionally impact. I cry every single time I watch this episode.
Andre Bocelli, like Time to Say Goodbye. Like, I could not listen to that song the same note without thinking of that episode.
And it's the fact that she looks straight into the camera and she says goodbye. She's not just saying that to her family. She's saying that to the audience.
Yeah.
And I'm literally getting goosebumps.
It's that, especially like when they're all having dinner, it's sort of the Last Supper, because like you've got the dad there, you've got the mum there, you've got you've got the ring. I can't think of her name.
Well, her mother is actually played by Michelle Dotris from British sitcom Some Mothers Do Have Them. Ooh, Betty. That's Betty. Also, the Chinese girl was actually in Psychoville.
Oh, I know who she is now.
Yeah, she was actually in Psychoville. I can't fault the episode at all. Like, there's humor in there. There is some humor, but it's, oh man, it's like such a well-constructed drama. And you're watching it, you're thinking, what the hell's going on here? Like, what is it? It's a good mystery. And it's creepy. It's emotional, but there's moments of creepiness, like with the eggs, where she goes into the kitchen.
Yeah. And again, with the bonfire night with the scar when he burns himself on a sparkler, and then you realise there's nothing there, and then she's like, you did that as a kid, and then you sort of like see the scar.
And then you know something's up, because her father, who's got dementia, obviously we find out he's dead, but then later on he comes into the room.
Yeah.
Starts talking, and that's when you're like, hang on, what her dad's dead, what the hell's going on? And her whole life is flashing before her eyes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm actually getting goosebumps, man. That episode has such an effect on me.
And then, as I said, as soon as she says, I think I know what this is, that's it. As soon as you hear that, and then you hear the accident, and then...
I'll tell you why this has such a connection, is because everyone could relate to this. Everyone has a fear of dying, and to see your life and everyone that you love and care about around you before, do you know what I mean? That episode has such resonance. And Shearsmith and Pemberton, they knew they were onto something good when they wrote it. And they even cried when they read it, but they never expected the audience for it to hit them like it did. As I said, it's the high. I know it's the highest rated on IMDb. It's the only episode thus far that is on above a 9. I think it's on like a 9.1, a 9.2.
And it's well deserved because, as I said, it's just a fantastic episode. Like, it's phenomenal.
The problem is, it is so great. I can't watch it too often because it makes me cry every time. That's the problem. I can't return to it a huge amount.
You can't return without the floods.
There's 3 episodes in the entire show that brought a tear to my eye. 3 episodes. That's the biggest, hands down. But there are 2 more. I'm not going to say what they are just yet. You could probably guess. But there is 1 episode from season 4, and there's 1 from the... Well, this is giving it away. I'll admit, Merrily, Merrily made me cry.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know what? Whilst we're on the subject, we'll finish this and then we might as well just talk about because as I said, it just aired this week, so we might as well just get into it now.
Yeah.
So as I said, my number 2 were 12 Days of Christine.
Yeah.
Which is your number 1, and then my number 1, as we discussed, was La Courgette. Because again, the shot twist of it, the whole idea of being claustrophobic in a train car, and then sort of everything kind of unraveling.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say do season 3 while we're here, but we don't actually. I'm guessing you'd have to rewatch them and all that, wouldn't you?
I'd have to rewatch.
I know what my number 1 is. I basically know what my top 3 are for season 3. It's the other 3. It's the bottom 3 that I'd have to kind of like.
Yeah. Okay, so, as I said today, I've kind of had to like think it because again, it's been so long since I watched season 1.
Yeah. Well, Merrily, Merrily. I really liked it. Again, like they Shearsmith and Pemberton take you on such a journey for half an hour, and it's a journey that manages to make you laugh. And you've got the kind of mystery. It keeps you guessing what direction this is going in.
Yeah, and you've got the big trio back. So you've got Matt Gattis back, like with Shearsmith and Pemberton. So it's like sort of like one happy reunion.
Yeah. It's, having all 3 of them back for the first time in quite some time on screen. Because the last time they did anything like TV-wise together, aside from interviews, would have been Psychoville.
Yeah.
Which I think was season 2, wasn't it? Or was it season 1?
I'm not sure. I think it was when they were trying to kill him because, like, they did the
police officer.
Murder. Yeah, the murder thing.
Yeah. So it's been a while. To have them back together was great. I thought, is it Rebecca Morgan?
I can't think. Her out of Afterlife. I can't think of her name.
A very welcome addition to the cast. I thought she was great. I thought she actually had some of the funniest moments in the entire episode.
Hilarious. Oh, is this Who Knows Judge Rinder? And then she's thinking that it's going to be a party on a yacht, and then she's like, "Oh, I missed a hen do for this." Again, this sort of has like the subject of isolation because they're out in the middle of the lake. They get stuck. They don't know where they're at, and then Shearsmith kind of just sees this figure.
Yeah, I thought it was a very inspired setting actually to have it on a pedalo in the lake. I thought that was a really good choice.
And the joke with the pedalo, like naming it wrong,
the pedo.
Yeah.
But again, it kind of ties into something that we learn later on in the episode.
Yeah.
Due to Pemberton's character, that he actually has dyslexia. And then it kind of adds up. And the ending, because like I said, I was led to believe we're going along this route of kind of like a revenge plot. That's kind of like, I think, what Shearsmith and Pemberton were wryly hinting towards, that this could be a revenge plot for whatever reason. We just don't know the reason yet. And then, of course, it turns out to be something way more poignant that brought a tear to my eye. The fireworks scene I thought was beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. And it hit me. Emotionally, it hit me. Again, dealing with grief. But it's just the journey. It's not all about the end. Like, just the journey was great.
Yeah.
It's kind of, and I thought it was...
slowly got to see him connect again, which was great because, like, they've not seen each other since, like, university, and they've kind of, like, gradually started to, like, reconnect.
Yeah. And I think it's good as well, and inspired choice that you didn't see his wife at the end. You just hear her voice, presumably her voice when she calls him, and he just looks. And it's just that look he gives her
Yeah,
That
and
look
again,
he gives her, man. Shearsmith is an underrated dramatic actor.
and that
He
sort
can
of proves
act.
the West is more.
Yeah, he can act. He might be more
Definitely.
known for comedic roles and stuff, but Shearsmith, he's got some serious acting talent. So
Oh,
is
definitely.
Pemberton. I just love how these guys can shift from likable to loathable over the
Yeah,
course of 2 episodes. 2 different,
definitely.
completely different characters. Yeah, I really like. Where would you would this episode kind of rank maybe anywhere in your top 10 or 20, would you say?
Well,
Without
that's,
thinking about it for too long.
I don't know. I'd possibly say top 10, maybe. But as I said, I've got to wait until the rest of season 7's out. And again, like, till I've rewatched everything, like, because there is definitely some gems hidden up there that I vaguely remember. But as
Yeah.
soon as I revisit them, I've kind of just like thingy.
Yeah. I
But
thought
no,
Merrily was a really good start to the season.
again, fantastic opening.
You know, and like I said, you just never know what you're in store for. You know, sometimes it's tales about murder, sometimes it's something, like I said, like far more poignant, something like Bernie Clifton's dressing room.
Yeah.
Which is a great episode. Again, that spoiler alert, that's the other episode that made me cry. Bernie Clifton's dressing room, the friggin' end of that episode.
That's when the double act, innit? Yeah, I do remember that one.
They carried the entire episode.
It's something about winning money now, isn't it?
The entire episode is Shearsmith and Pemberton. There's only one other character in the whole episode, and she only appears at the very, very end. Shearsmith and Pemberton, they just do the whole episode together. And again, God, it works.
Talking about reconnecting, that kind of got them to reconnect because they had like a feud or something. And
what,
then
Bernie Clifton's?
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't go about. Yeah. They're a comedy double act that split up, and then they're doing this reunion thing. But obviously, the ending, the twist, is very it's very heartfelt, very heartfelt. And again, you really feel it. You can really feel within the course of half an hour. You can actually feel like these two have so much history together. That's what's so wonderful about it. They create these fully realized characters that nothing feels forced. But that's again, that's probably a top 10 for me. Bernie Clifton. It's a great episode. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm really looking forward to the next one, Mr. King, which is set in a primary school.
Definitely.
I do know someone that's seen it, because for people that were lucky in March, went to the BFI screening, they showed 2 episodes of the new season there. So I know someone that's already seen Merrily before it came out, and they've also seen Mr. King.
What they said about, without spoilers, what they said about...
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want any spoilers. They said to me that I'm really going to like Mr. King. I really don't know what to expect from this one. This is going to be like seemingly playful, or if it's going to have a much darker edge to it underneath, like the warm exterior. This episode's got a very kind of warm exterior to it. But as it's Shearsmith and Pemberton, there could be very dark underlying. Yeah. Who knows?
Well, I've got a couple of ideas, like what could sort of happen. But as I said, like, you never know with these guys. But again, I'm excited to see Mr. King because, as I said, it's something different with him being in the school. It could be anything for all we know.
Well, there's one episode coming out. The title hasn't been given yet, I don't think. And it looks to be to do with a taxidermist. Or some, or in the trailer, in the Inside Number 9 season 7 trailer, we get snippets of Shearsmith playing a female, black hair, and in one shot they're brushing their teeth, and there's like a pink balloon floating behind them. I
think I vaguely remember that.
Looks creepy. This episode looks creepy, or at least it looks very psychologically horror orientated.
Now you've mentioned that, I'm going to have to give it a watch, because then I'm going to have to start unraveling like what I think is going to happen in these episodes.
Watch the trailer again. You'll see 3 shots in this trailer of Shearsmith playing, looks to be a girl. I don't know if they're a young girl or a woman, but it looks, and you do get a quick shot. I don't know if it's the same episode though. A quick shot of what looks to be a stuffed cat. And I swear, I might be wrong here. You see the cat's head move. So
you never know.
I feel like it's going to revolve around a character's descent into madness, or seemingly.
Definitely.
We'll see.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's it then. So basically, so the biggest contrast really we've got is kind of Last Gasp to, what was the other one? What was my number 3? Sardines. That was like the biggest gap, I'd say.
Yeah.
Whereas you like more Last Gasp more than I do, and obviously I like Sardines a lot more than you do.
Yeah, and then again, season 2 was like very different with us because you put Nana's Party at bottom, I put Elizabeth Gadget like bottom, and then I said 12 Days of Christine you put as number 1, I put that as number 2.
What was your bottom one for season 2? Trial of Elizabeth Gadget?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I do think I like that episode more than, like I said, more than some other people. Again, it's not widely regarded as being like necessarily one. I know it's one of Shearsmith's favourites of all the episodes he's done, because he's got a huge astute love for that era, that thing, you know, Witchfinders and all that kind of thing. But yeah, so all right, so we'll get season 3 and 4 done sometime before the sun explodes.
We'll get that done within the next 2 years.
I reckon we could month and a half. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I could do that.
Season 3 and 4. I will say this as well, going by trend. This is a reason I'm kind of excited for Mr. King. I'll tell you why, because now I've noticed something. The second episode of nearly every season has been my favourite. So look, Quiet Night In,
12 Days of Christine,
12 Days of Christine, The Bill, Bernie Clifton's Dressing Room, only season 5 it wasn't, and Simon Says from season 6.
Which one's season 5 again?
Second episode was Death Be Not Proud, the Psychoville crossover.
Oh, yeah.
5 out of the 6 seasons so far, the second episode has almost always been my favourite. So I'm hoping Mr. King keeps with that trend.
Definitely.
See, episode 2 or episode 3? Episode 3s are usually high up for me as well. Riddle of the Sphinx from season 3. Season 4 had Once Removed. Do you remember the one done Memento style, done in reverse?
Yeah.
Great episode, really well crafted, that one. So we'll see. But yeah, cheers anyway, man. Cheers for coming on.
No worries, it's always a pleasure.
And well, if there are people watching and stuff still, I'd like to think that they've seen all of these episodes, because we've just given about 9 million spoilers away. But I would just say, like, share the word about this show. Just look, if you have to put a gun to people's head and force them to watch it, do it. Seriously, any measure possible.
It's so good.
I think Shearsmith and Pemberton seriously need to start, like, I don't know, giving me some money, man, for the amount of marketing I do. All over my face, but I'm always putting about frigging Inside Number 9, isn't it?
We're giving them free advertising.
I know, at least give me some, you know what I mean? Give me something for it. But no, I'm just, like I said, I'm really hopeful that we get 2 more seasons.
One day we'll get them on the show. I'd
love for them just to do an opening, like for the channel or something, man. I'd love to meet them. So that's it. So thanks a lot to everyone that watched, and cheers for coming on, man.
Cheers, guys. You're very welcome. I shall see you soon.
All right. So stay local, everyone, and we'll be back again soon.
Definitely. See you later.
Take care.